video shows a brazen carjacking in New York where crooks jumped on top of a minivan, pummeling its 53-year-old driver after a crash. The victim was later treated for a fractured eye socket. And over in Oregon, critics are lashing out at Governor Kate Brown for granting clemency to a cold-blooded murderer and not bothering to tell the victim's family that he was back on the streets. Brown defending her actions by saying the killer was only 17 when he committed the crime. All right, on that point, Judge, what about the decision to not charge somebody as an adult or grant them clemency because of something at 17?
You know, first of all, Kate Brown, I don't know if you remember, but she's the one, I think it was right before Thanksgiving, when she said, when they decided there should only be 6 people for Thanksgiving at your Thanksgiving dinner table. And that if you see that your neighbor has more than 6, call the authorities. I mean, now she's a little wacky, as far as I'm concerned there. I mean, what if you have 7 kids? Really? Tell the other ones to hit the road?
Jason.
But more importantly, the fact that this woman would decide to let out a convicted murderer who was convicted not just of murder, but of murder for hire. And understand there are different levels of murder. A murder for hire, a murder to silence a witness. I'm sorry, this is a murder to silence a witness. Those murders are particularly heinous, for which you can, in some states have the death penalty, get the death penalty. She decides, without even contacting the family of the victim, who was a 17-year-old girl who knew about this dirtbag, and he was a dirtbag. He had done a whole spree of burglaries, and she knew about him, and he wanted to silence her, and he did it by shooting her in the back of the head.
Yep.
Kate Brown is an imbecile. She doesn't understand what juries go through before they convict beyond a reasonable doubt. All of the appellate courts, the mid-level, and then the highest level of appellate courts, the judge who makes this sentence, then the corrections. And I think it just erodes the faith in the criminal justice system. It tells victims' families, don't come forward, don't testify, because they're going to let them out. And it tells the people that we're soft on crime. And, you know, we ask them, that's one of the hardest things as a DA, as an assistant DA, is to get people to cooperate and testify. Why should they cooperate if that guy's going to be out on the street in a minute?
You want to comment on this case?
Yeah, sure. I'll be quick. He should move in with Kate Brown, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
What's the name of the governor?
Kate Brown.
Yeah. She should take the guy in. Look, they always mention the age of the suspect. They never, ever mention the age of the victim. That drives me crazy. And it does tell everybody when the sentences are given, they could change it any time. They're essentially fluid. It's like, I serve a life sentence without parole for murder, but I identify as a nonviolent felon. You know, why not? And this is why the Florida sheriff we talked about yesterday was right when he said, hey, shoot intruders dead when they home invade, because that's the only foolproof 100% prevention of recidivism. Oh, and if you think they might let him out, you might want to shoot him dead.
Jessica, on the carjacking in New York, I mean, the carjackings, that's not the first one. This is happening a lot.
And on video, remember when Eric Adams was giving a press conference on top of a subway station, one of the outdoor ones, and witnessed carjacking right behind him and actually made the call himself to report it? What I'm overwhelmed by is the shocking lack of humanity that is permeating through every level of society. And this coming off of a time when I felt like we were united, certainly in the early days of the pandemic, where people were scared, were conscious of their elderly neighbors. Everyone wanted to protect those in their life that they needed to. And it obviously has electoral implications, but those are so small in the context of just how you treat people when you're walking down the street.
Jason, you hadn't been in New York in a while, right? Or at least I know that your wife hadn't. Like, what, have you noticed anything different here? And is there like an increased anxiety about crime?
Yeah, it does not feel the same safety, even in the Times Square area, that there used to be. You could walk, all across the city. But look, respect juries. And I think there's been a great disrespect there. But you've also got to prosecute these people. And if you don't elect prosecutors that actually prosecute the people committing the crime, there's not going to be a deterrent.